Hello and welcome. You're watching Ask PQ on Bloomberg Quint. I am Agam Vakil. If you got questions on equity, the show is perfect for you. Send your questions to us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp. You can also call us on 022-4540-4141 or mail us at askpq@bloombergquint.com. Just make sure that you do add the AskPQ hashtag. But before we move into, well, your queries as well as the markets, I'm going to get in our markets editor, Shah, to take us through how the markets have been, especially given the kind of, developments that we are seeing at this point in time. Neeraj, some pretty tense moments at this point in time. How are you reading?
Yeah, some jitters as well, Agam. So I think both of us were talking about this earlier as well. About 0.25% off right now. The markets have come off. Yeah. They're off the lows of the day as well. So which is, one way of reading it, but certainly off the highs of the day. Escalating tensions as yet. And now, while the Pakistani statements, and which are there on your screen right now, that they are saying that this is to show that they are capable but do not want to escalate this any further. If this is taken by the markets as a sign of escalation, which doesn't seem to be the case right now, then it could be negative. I think we'll get in experts on board in a bit. Sanjay Pogale would be joining in to talk about his thoughts as well and his experience into what all of this would mean. But the information that we have at hand right now, and we'll get in Amisha Vora's views on that, is simply what we stated about 15-20 minutes ago, which is that Pakistani air jets did cross into the Indian side. Yeah. And on the way back, they dropped some payloads, but we do not know, or we do not have any confirmation about the extent of damage, if any, and where did they drop in the first place. But the measures that have come out, India has issued multiple things as well. Airports in North India have been closed out, the Pakistan air activity as well, and lots of things being done. So, certainly jitters for the markets. Amisha Vora, Prabhudas Giradhar with us on the show, on the phone line. Amisha, thanks so much for taking the time out. Nervous moments for the markets. We might argue that we still not cracked too much, but if yesterday was a day wherein people believed that there will not be any escalation, today there are some telltale signs of some bit of escalation. Whether this gets into a full-blown escalation is a separate thing altogether, though.
I agree, but we need to also understand, and I think some quarters do understand and expect that even Pakistani PM, even Pakistani military needs some replies for the sentiments of their people and for their position. So, something is bound to happen. While India made it clear that they have not targeted any military installation or anything, but just the terrorists, and the world is, top world leaders is with India. So I feel that a full-blown escalation is definitely very distant chance, but some such uncertainties in some or other forms will continue for a while. That is not ruled out, making markets more volatile.
Right, Amisha, in that case, how would you go about suggesting and advising your clients at this point in time, given these conditions, when it comes to their allocations? Are you, at least at this point in time, putting everything on hold?
No, rather I would feel that typically always it is seen that in case something all blown out happens and things recover, and that is always seen as a chance to buy. Though in my probabilities, I rule out such a kind of a huge correction or damage. And in my probability, I also feel that with this circumstances and action that Mr. Modi has taken, to a great extent, market observers and participants who were thinking that election outcome can throw big surprises for India would for some time think that election uncertainty has reduced. So to that extent, it goes positive because it's a very decisive action. Right and wrong, time can prove, but generally a decisive action is what is largely appreciated. So I would say that from now till next 3 to 4 months could be probably ideal time to gradually accumulate or average out good quality stocks.
Okay, Amisha, so in that case, I'm assuming that at this point in time, you are still inclined to advise your clients by sticking with equity and not necessarily moving into certain other asset classes like debt or perhaps even precious metals.
Certainly, I would like, based on, of course, their individual risk profile, etc., etc. But equity is not something which needs to be ruled out because of whatever development. It is a volatile asset class any which way, but this will be, as what I said, next few months will give very good opportunities starting now to gradually keep accumulating good quality stocks.
Amisha, just wondering, would a prudent approach be that until the situation or until the clarity about the situation comes about fully, hands off? I'm not saying sell whatever you have in your portfolio, but let investors not commit fresh money right now until the final clarity on this situation and how it's settling down emerges.
No, but typically it is always seen that it is because there is uncertainty that you get these kind of prices. So at that time, you have to necessarily take a slightly longer term view. And in today's world, we all know that it is not a very long drawn affair, whatever happens. So 3-4 months, 6 months pain and little correction, keeping in that mind, because nobody can predict some of these things. So one has to gradually accumulate is what I would think. Keeping, even if you take 2 years view, next 4 months will give very good opportunity.
Which I agree. I'm just wondering if tactically it might be the way they say that let the earnings come in the print and then go out and buy a stock even if it's 15 rupees or 15% higher because you know the trajectory or have a reasonable chance of predicting the trajectory. Would the same hold true for broader market investments right now? We don't know the trajectory as of now.
But so while I'm sure to some extent that it will make a difference in the mutual fund flows, which any which way have been slightly sobering down for a while, and but at the same time you will also start getting such levels also. So it's not that then all is clear, because in such cases when terrorist attacks happen, never it is all is clear. And to assume that this can blow out into a full-fledged war, there is always a calculated decision and chance that really can somebody afford in such difficult situation of the country where the funds are so limited to go out for a full-fledged war. I think that is a very remote chance. And all the world leaders have also shown they've taken clear sides with India. So taking all this into account, I don't think one should really, wait for next 4 months, because you will never know what will happen, when will it happen, when will it not happen. So one is to take a very gradual approach in current markets.
Right, Amisha. Also, for all the investors who already have a significant amount of allocation in equity, for them, what becomes important now is conservation of capital. And I reckon at least some of them will insist on churning their portfolios to a certain extent. How would you go about advising them?
So that is very critical. That in this markets, quality will become all the more important. And that we have been actually going through that phase of bifurcation between quality and non-quality for last almost 14 months, 12 months. That non-quality is getting punished and going out of clients' portfolios for one or other reasons. Maybe initially started with SEBI mutual fund changes, has also started with the fact that all the NBFCs support in terms of lending, less, etc., costs went up. So one after the other factors have also caused that distinction happening. And even now I feel that the distinction will continue to remain even in the upcycle when it comes over next some time. Over 2 years when we say that people will make very good money for investments in markets, I think the distinction will still continue between quality and non-quality, because non-quality to move needs a very frothy market, which I don't foresee coming in a hurry.
Amisha, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your views in difficult times, I might add, for an equity investor. Appreciate your time. Let's get in a seasoned veteran voice. Sanjay Pugalia joins us right now with his thoughts on how he's seeing the political situation currently. Sanjay, thanks so much for taking the time out. Neeraj here. afternoon. What's your sense of how have you seen this situation move from day one to day two, if I can use that term? Because a lot of developments, statements from Pakistan, as we see, flight operations from multiple Pakistan airports have been shut down as well. That's the information that is coming in from ANI. How have you seen the situation change?
I think on the face of it, there is a reason to kind of get anxious what is happening around us, that we are suspending our Srinagar airport operations for some time, and that's what has happened in Pakistan. What Pakistan has done and said after that is very interesting and significant. It says that our action was also non-military action, non-retaliatory action. And what was the action? That they came to Poonch and Rajouri sector in Jammu region, went back after dropping a couple of bombs. Indian side said that we kind of chased them away, and in fact we have shot down one F-16 plane that has fallen 3 kilometers from border in Pakistani area. One can understand and explain this going by Pakistani utterances, that we also needed to show to our domestic audiences that we can retaliate. So there is no great demoralization among the military forces and the civilians. And they also talk about de-escalation and reserving the right of self-defense. So it could be just for the perception and posturing, and no major development should happen after that. That is one possibility. Indians have, of course, retaliated today, and there is a full alert. Fighter jets are doing their sorties on the border areas. So yeah, the atmosphere is tense. Anything can happen. But the way it unfolded since yesterday, it was not a conventional reaction from Pakistan. First, they informed about the incident, then they said no damage has taken place. So in such scenarios, there are claims and counterclaims. We do not know the fact. Fact is that there is a tension. Will it get escalated? Looking at the international community's reaction, especially what US has said overnight, that please de-escalate the tension, use restraint. There should not be at any cost any more development. After a few hours of that, this one incident has happened where Pakistan itself is giving a signal that we had to do this, so we have done it, now no more action. So we hope that it stops here.
Would you expect that, Ms. Sanjay? I mean, from the Indian side, would the Indian side take it at face value that this was meant to show that this has happened? I was listening into your chat that you were having with Neeraj yesterday, Neeraj Gupta of the Quint yesterday as well. And the common belief, I think in your mind as well as in a lot of other people's mind, was that even if Pakistan wants to play astray, they do not have the economic wherewithal to do that. Will it be limited to this, or do you believe India would have to or will show some moves in response to this?
Look, India will respond very aggressively. That is very clear. The kind of current political context which we are witnessing, India will always up the game and retaliate and kind of take a position to say to Indians that we are not going to tolerate any misadventure from Pakistani side. Pakistan cannot afford a war. What has happened, that is something very new, and I think Pakistan is grappling with it. The whole threat of that we have nuclear arsenal is now gone away. The whole idea that India has been extremely restrained in its response in past terror strike, which is not crossing the border and carrying out air strike. So India has set a new normal. Pakistan has to go back to the drawing board and realize this, that we just cannot afford a proper conventional war. But these frictions, these skirmishes, and these muscle flexing will continue to happen. It will become more of a war of words. But yeah, I may be being very cautious in reading the situation and saying that now no major tension should escalate. I could be wrong. I do not know enough to come to a firm conclusion that situation will not worsen from here. Maybe India will have to show one more or two actions that we are creating serious deterrence, and that should show some result. what Pakistan has done today doesn't show that deterrence matters to them. They have to show this for their domestic audiences. Will this be enough for them? This we do not know, because this Pakistani regime has to make an assessment that the Pakistani people are okay that we also showed some power about our military strength. I do not know really, but yeah, the anxieties are there. Markets are also reflecting that. International community has said things which only means two things. Okay, what had to happen has happened. Please no further escalation. We still don't know how China is going to interject or respond to this situation vis-a-vis two countries. So that is the big puzzle we do not have a clear answer to. What America is trying to do is that it is asking Pakistan that India had to do this, now you please live with it. I don't know where Pakistan will actually listen to US advice or not.
Right. Sanjay, this is Agam here. We also understand that the Home Minister is holding a high-level meeting at this point in time with several of its security advisors. In your opinion, what do you think the conversation and the discussion is going to be all about?
I will not rule out a scenario. The most obvious next scenario is to show much more powerful action on the ground as far as Pakistan and fight against terror is concerned. I would anticipate, we do not have any details about these meetings, but the way political leadership is meeting our military establishment and their chiefs is a clear indication that be ready for any eventuality. So if we have to engage in a limited war, maybe it will not be called a war, but this continued confrontation may continue for some more days is possible. So one more strong demonstration by Indian side is quite possible.
Okay. Sanjay, I'm sure you have a busy afternoon, so we'll leave it at that. But thank you so much for taking the time out and giving us your thoughts. Okay, let's get on with Ask PQ. I just want to add out here that all these conversations about the Pakistani jets entering, etc., into the Indian airspace, etc., there's no statement, official statement from the Indian government as yet on the violation of Indian airspace. So that's something that everybody needs to keep that in mind. We are waiting for official statements coming in from the Indian government. This is from the best placed sources that we're getting you, and that too in a limited way, the information that we have. Agam, over to you.
Absolutely. Well, some very valid points there. Neeraj, thank you for joining us and taking us through these conversations, which are going to be, of course, very critical for the markets in the near term at this point in time. And speaking of the markets, well, a very quick check on the Nifty and the Sensex as to where they are. We haven't seen too much movement after we've seen the Nifty come off and move into the red, down by as much as 0.5%. And on that note, I am going to very quickly get in our two experts of the day, Sameet Chavan of Angel Broking and Gaurang Shah of Geojit Financial Services, who will be here to answer all your questions. It's been a bit late, but I'm going to take in and address as many questions as possible for you guys. Thank you both of you for joining us. Very quickly, I'm going to take a question on okay, Harita Muneli, he has a question. She has a question on State Bank of India over a one-year period at current levels. I'll take this up with Sameet. Sameet, one-year view on State Bank of India is currently at 268. What would you do with this?
No, in that case, one should keep buying in a staggered manner on any decline. Stock is trading around its important support level, but from here on, if this correction extends in this counter and if it reaches around 260, 255, according to us, that should act as an immediate as well as intermediate support level. So any dip from current level would be a good buying opportunity. If you look at it from a slightly broader view, the stock has clearly slipped into a consolidation mode. The wider ranges 290, 295 on the higher side would act as a very strong resistance. Low side, as I said, 260, 255 remain to be a very strong support zone.
Okay, well, moving on to, well, perhaps actually staying with the banking sector, but the private sector, that is, we have a question from Vivek Kanoja, and he wants a 5-year view on HDFC Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, and RBL Bank. Which two of these should I choose as an SIP? That's the question. Gaurang, welcome to the show. This question is for you. He's mentioned HDFC Bank, Kotak Mahindra Bank, and RBL Bank. He wants two out of these three banks in which the viewer can put in, or rather do systematic investment planning.
So, well, we remain extremely positive on all three banks, but if I was in his place, if you want two banks, then I would pick, of course, by default, HDFC Bank, which has been a value creator for a very long time, and Kotak Mahindra Bank as well, though there are some news flows over the last couple of days which has dragged the stock down. But if you look at the third quarter earning this financial year, Agam, I think it was much better than what the street estimates were. There is significant amount of improvement in terms of earning visibility. Maintaining a target of 1450, 1485 on Kotak Mahindra Bank, and on HDFC Bank, I think we are working with 25, 2600. These are all 2 months, I beg your pardon, 2 years, 2.5, 3-year target I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, while we're with the banking space, we have one more question from Surasini Anudeep, and the question is on the long-term view of State Bank of India. We've already taken, a technical check here, but we may as well see how it stands in front of other banks. So, Gaurang, coming back to you, this one is from the public sector space, but a relatively more stable one in this particular arena. What is your view on State Bank of India?
So any dip closer to 250, 240 is a great investment opportunity for new people who want to invest. Forced to invest at maybe 280 or 300 levels or more. Great opportunity to average at current levels, and maybe if it falls further, you can average more. 365 is the conservative target that we are working with, Agam. And I'm sure these targets will get revised upwards with the reforms that we are seeing in the public sector banks under the NCLT, IBC, and recapitalization and merger of public sector banks, which the government is undertaking.
Okay. Well, actually, we have a whole bunch of questions with respect to, well, the ongoing developments. So I may as well take our experts' view on the markets and the impact of these rising tensions between the two countries and the kind of impact that has on markets. So, Sameet, first, let me come to you on a technical basis. Are you witnessing anything which stands out in trade at this point in time? I know that the VIX has spiked quite substantially over the past couple of days, but if you leave that aside, anything else that you are witnessing with respect to, well, the Nifty or the Bank Nifty or any benchmark for that matter, given the kind of circumstances we are in right now?
See, Agam, such times are difficult to trade, especially for momentum traders. You can see volatile swings. If you see Nifty was making a high today early in the morning, somewhere around 10,930. It faced resistance, and after this development, we saw a complete nosedive. So you are likely to see this volatility getting increasing probably in next few days. So it's better to stay light on positions, and if you have to choose index, then one should keep a close eye on important levels. As far as Nifty goes, 10,900, 940 on the high side remains to be a very strong resistance, and low side now, yesterday's low of 10,730 would be seen as a key support zone.
All right, and Gaurang, the same question to you as well. In your experience, how do you think things could play out? And in that case, what do you think investors who are already invested in equity markets right now can do? Stay put, perhaps play light? Or do you think that because we are expecting a little more volatility, those periods can be taken into as an opportunity to move into the markets?
Well, so first of all, I'm glad you asked me this question, Agam, and give me a few minutes for that. First of all, I think we all should salute the armed forces for whatever action they have taken under the decision-making capability and capacity of our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. And whatever has conspired over the last maybe 24 or 48 hours, I think somebody should actually go. In fact, the whole world is telling the neighboring country wherein we have certain puppets and jokers who always want to do certain adventure, because common sense and wisdom seems to be lacking as far as they are there. And my only hope And the request would be that let common sense and wisdom prevail upon you, and stop doing what you're doing and take action against the terrorists whom you have based in your country, on your soil. On the markets, what you asked me, Agam, well, I think, first of all, I think the entire nation wanted this kind of action, and we all had anger with us. So I don't see any reason why we should get disturbed by this kind of action, because how many years are you going to live in fear? And every day when you don't know whether you're going to come back alive or not, especially I'm talking about the states which neighbor the so-called neighbor called Pakistan. As far as the markets are concerned, I think we have seen many unpleasantries and many uncertainties. We've seen a couple of wars with Pakistan. We've seen the Middle East war, which America initiated. We've seen disturbances come. But after all these things, I think we have matured ourselves as a country, as a market, as an emerging nation. And I'm sure that once dust settles down, we'll have great opportunity. My only request is, don't put all your money at one go. If you have investment in good companies, stay invested. And if markets or situations like this makes markets volatile or go down, I think that's going to be a great opportunity to buy good companies with sound performance, credibility, corporate governance. Sectorally, if you ask me, Agam, I would stick to public sector banks, private sector banks, IT, pharma. I would also look at FMCG consumption theme, cements and metal. So broadly, it's going to be a basket of 6 or 7 sectors. And within those sectors, my request would be to look at large cap first.
Okay, well, fair enough. We've reached the end of the show, so I'm glad that I could have both our experts' opinions on the ongoing developments. So I'm going to take a moment to thank both our experts, Sameet and Gaurang, for this very truncated show for taking the queries and as well as giving their views on the current situation. Do remember, we're just a tweet, a post, or a call away, so keep your queries coming in. We promise to address them as many as possible through our shows. On that note, it's a wrap on this edition of Ask BQ. Up next is Power Lunch. Stay tuned in.